Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We begin in the name of Allah, whose grace, guidance and mercy we seek in this and in all matters. Blessings and salutations on our beloved Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his companions and descendants. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all our viewers. My name is Anisa from the Islamic Care Line, and you're watching Get Real with Islamic Care Line on ITV. Today we're going to be talking about something that's experienced more often these days, unfortunately, terminal illness and how that affects one's relationships and one's life as a whole. I have with me Sister Suraya Nawab from the Islamic Care Line as well. Welcome, Suraya.
Thank you very much, Anisa, for having me, and Assalamu alaikum to the viewers.
Suraya, I'm going to start off by asking you, what were some of your first initial thoughts and feelings when you first got diagnosed?
Okay, so I got diagnosed with breast cancer very suddenly. I had no family history. I had no inclination towards it besides just an abnormal rash around my left breast. And so I think instinctively I said, I need to go and have this checked. I was due for a mammogram that year anyway. But my immediate, so the reason why I'm saying this is that I really didn't think about breast cancer at all, because it was a routine mammogram. And so when the radiologist started coming in and started fiddling with the screen, and I looked at their faces and I said to them, I think there's a problem. And so they said, yes, we'll just speak to you now about it. But immediately, I think I was scared, and I was scared more because it was so unexpected. And right now, when I think about it, I feel very silly about it. I feel the prevalence for breast cancer is so high. How could I not have expected this just because of I'm whoever I am and I won't get it? So I think I was scared first, but immediately I thought about it for a second, and this is what I'm most grateful of. Immediately I thought, you know what, I know this is going to be a long road, and Allah, I submit to you, but I'm just glad it's me and not my children. And that was my immediate focus was, I will get through this at some point, but I'm just glad it's not my children, because for me it would have been more difficult to see my children or my husband go through the treatment and the recovery from cancer. And so I think it was also a feeling of gratefulness.
I think from what you're saying is the greatest emotion was fear, but the biggest helping factor was the acceptance.
I think I'm surprised that and that also is again the will of Allah, that I don't know if it was an acceptance that early, but I think this was my whole thing, that I will go through this, whatever it is. And I think in those few seconds after that, or minutes after that, I already was like writing a resignation letter in my head, to say I'll have to resign from work because I need to concentrate now on.
I think it was too much. It was overwhelming.
It was very, very overwhelming. And yet at the same time, I was processing at the same time. So it's a bit of a...
Just linked to that, how would you say that your diagnosis affected you on all levels, whether it be, okay, so you spoke a little bit about the emotions and the thoughts, but physically, mentally, in terms of socially, your relationship, your spirituality. Now, you briefly just touched on a couple of those things.
Okay, I think for me the most difficult part of all the phases of my life that you mentioned was the physical changes. Because you see people who go through chemo, and they have a very distinctive look about them, especially after the second, third chemo, no matter what cancer they're going through. They have a distinctive look because obviously you lose all the hair on your body, so your eyebrows and eyelashes and all that start falling off and all that. And because I'm in hijab, I mean, you couldn't see my head, but obviously I had no hair on my head. And at home and that, I never used to obviously keep my scarf on all the time. So as much as possible, when there was nobody around, I used to not have a scarf, and then I used to look at myself because I'm passing a mirror or making wudu or so on. So I think when you see people who have this distinctive cancer treatment look about them, you look at them and you may even feel sorry for them or something like that. But that physical change in my body was something that was most difficult for me to deal with, because I looked at it as if it was a mark of my illness. So it was a reminder of it all the time. Retrospectively, the scar that I have after my surgery, it actually gives me a lot of hope every day when I get into the bathroom and I undress to go and have a shower. It's a reminder. It's a reminder to be grateful. It's a reminder that Allah put me through something that was so difficult, and I got through it, alhamdulillah, with His help and guidance. So initially, the physical symptoms were very difficult for me. But at the same time, if I can just mention one example, and that is one day towards the end of my chemo, I got up in the middle of the night, and I wrote this down as well, and it's just such a poignant reminder that I looked at myself and I didn't have hair. I was bald. I didn't have eyebrows. I didn't have eyelashes. My face was mottled gray color with like patches all over. My tongue was swollen. My lips were swollen. My eyelids were hanging right over my cheek. And I got up to go to the bathroom, and I pass a mirror as I go to my toilet, and I looked at myself, and I actually didn't recognize myself. I really had a fright, and I knew that in the bedroom next door my husband is sleeping, and obviously he has seen me like this, you know. And again, I can just thank Allah, because I looked at this and I was shocked, and then I thought to myself, you know what, this is just a physical appearance, you know. All this is going to get better, and it's going to go away, and I will be better. And what you see, what I'm seeing in the mirror, is just a reflection. It's not who I am. So no matter how, and it's temporary. And so the physical changes were so extreme for me, and yet they taught me so much. So that's on the physical side. In terms of the social side, I think there are a lot of unexpected reactions from people as well, right? So I know along the way I grew to respect and care for a lot of people who previously were acquaintances, or may have been people I know, even family members, but I never thought them as somebody close to me in terms of being a confidant, or just being very close. There are family members you get all the time, but not somebody but over this period of 18 months that I was diagnosed and completed my active treatment, which was 18 months long, there were people who were most unexpectedly took such a deep interest in my well-being that I was surprised, visited often, or called, or messaged, or came to the chemotherapy that I was having, and I mean, that's something I myself, I knew of people before my diagnosis. I know of people now who are going through chemotherapy, but really I don't think I'm that special enough to say, what, let me go and spend this hour in the 4 hours that you're having your chemo drip on. And I thought that was remarkable, because the most unexpected people pitched up during my chemo once or twice, and just sat there, or brought me a sandwich, or just sat with me and held my hand. And so in terms of my social interactions with people, it changed a lot. And then I had people who were very close to me, or presumably that I thought were very close to me. And for whatever reason, my brother, for example, my youngest brother, who is extremely close to me, only after my treatment and after when I was on my way to recovery, he said to me, "Did you ever wonder why I didn't come and visit you so often?" And I said to him, "No, I know your personality, and I know maybe you just," he says, "You know what, I couldn't see you like this." And then his children said to me, "You know what, my dad used to cry every time you had a chemo session, and he knew you had it, but he just couldn't, he kept saying he can't say anything to you." It was easier for him to avoid it. So not in a bad way, but socially my relationship changed a lot. That's with significant other people in my circle. Within my immediate family, I think my children learned to respect me a little more.
Appreciate you maybe.
Hopefully they appreciate me a bit more. But I think most importantly is they looked at this challenge that I was going through, and hopefully they learned that no matter how hard a challenge you have, with the help of Allah and the grace and guidance and the mercy of Allah, and having focus on being well and looking after yourself, you can get through whatever comes your way, you know. So hopefully that's what they learned. If I bring it really close to me, if I look at my husband, he's also a very soft-hearted person. So there were times when I got very angry at him because, and that's another thing, I mean, emotionally, your emotional state is a real roller coaster. You know, there are days when you're okay, there are days when you can be the most irritable person because of the chemo treatment and things like that, and what is happening physically to you. And I know I used to scream and shout at him, or I used to just, snap, or I used to just avoid him. I just used to be in my bed. There were days when I couldn't get up. And I think he was just remarkable because he just took all this in his stride, and he just knew when I needed my space, and he used to just leave me sometimes for hours, like a whole 12-hour period on my own in my room, just bringing me water or just coming and peeping and seeing that I'm okay. On the one hand, on the other hand, you know, treatment like chemo and the whole process of having a mastectomy or a lumpectomy, it's also about body language and or your body image rather, right? Because it's such an important part of us as women. And so chemo also affects your level of intimacy. So that's also something that's important, because I think you need a husband who is going to understand these things. And it's not even something that a doctor will say to him, or you as a patient will speak to him about, because at that time, at that point in your life, you don't even talk about all these things, you know. So it's something that he needs to just accept on his own. And I know, and since my diagnosis and treatment, I know a lot of people have contacted me, and I know of women who have difficulty because their husbands are not accepting of the fact that they're going through this very real problem. So yeah, relationships, I think socially and in my family have changed a lot since what I was before, during and after the active treatment.
We're going to look a little bit on, and it's occurring to me that this program needs a second segment, but we're going to have to break now, so we'll continue when we get back. Jazakallah to all our viewers. We will see you on the other side of the break on Get Real with Islamic Care Line on ITV, on the special program on terminal illness and relationships. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum again. You're watching Get Real with Islamic Care Line on ITV, and today we're talking about terminal illness and relationships. I have with me Sister Suraya Nawab from the Islamic Care Line, who speaks about her personal experience when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. Suraya, just picking up, what would you say were some of your needs from your loved ones from the time you were diagnosed, right, until
I would imagine that your needs changed along that time. But what were some of the common needs that you had from them at the time?
I think most importantly, and right through the whole process, was the need for my own space and my own internalizing of what is happening to me. You know, I think as a mother and also in the profession that we come from, we're always nurturing and caring for other people. You know, and as a woman, that's what we do. You know, just naturally, normally, that's what we do. And I think it was this realization that I need to focus on me and myself. So that's what I needed from them. You know, I didn't want them to overwhelm me with too much of kindness, feel sorry for me. I refused for them to like do things, from preempt things, like okay, if we're walking out of the house, open the door for me, or you know, simple things like that, which we normally used to do. I didn't want pity. I didn't want them to pity me. Okay. So for me, in terms of immediate needs, yes, I wanted, but at the same time, I wanted them around me. I wanted them to just be quietly available.
You wanted their presence.
And their presence was important.
They had their silent support.
Absolutely, that was very important for me. You know, that they are there for me. They will manage. They can, and you know, I'm normally control freak in the sense that you want to see everything in your home or the office or everything in place, and you know, things like that. And when I talk about work as well, I wanted to be as productive as possible. Okay, and so without saying it, and this is another big advantage I had in terms of the help that Allah gave me and the courage that He gave me, and the people that He made me know over the years. Because even at the office, things just carried on and were done without me intervening. And all this time, for the 21 odd years of the care line, it was, no, I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. And suddenly, and the same happened in my home with my daughter and daughter-in-law, who just like took over. At the office, you guys just took over, and everything went ahead, and everything went on. Which is also something that I'm forever grateful for, because again, when I speak to a lot of people, they don't have the luxury of just concentrating on themselves and their illness and their recovery. They still have to sometimes go out to work. They still have to manage the household, especially if they are mothers with young kids, you know. So that was also a blessing for me, that I could manage my things on my own, and yet have things around me carry on as normal, and maybe even better than normal, because everybody made the extra effort to pitch in and help wherever they could.
And that, I imagine, was also an important form of support that you didn't need to ask for, but got.
Absolutely. But it also taught me. It taught me to let go. It taught me that my home will continue. It taught me that the office will continue running, because you know what, nobody is irreplaceable.
We nearing the end of our program, so I'm going to skip to the one thing is what would you advise viewers about in terms of their approach to someone who is terminally ill?
Okay, as I said before, so the last thing the person who is diagnosed with a terminal illness needs is your pity. Okay, so what I would do is I would make myself available to that person when they need it, so that the person, if they're close to me, knows that, you know what, if ever you need something that I can do to help you, even if it's just a phone call or a visit, or just being there, just being present, you know, I'm here for you. I think that is a very important thing. And on a practical level, it does help. Although I had immediate family members around me and that, but it does help when you come back from chemo and there's a pot of food. that you
So
don't
on a
have to worry.
practical
On a
thing.
practical level, some of those practical things are very important, and not doesn't have to be a gourmet meal. You know, it's just the thought that you can carry something with when you go, so then the person has and the family members, because I think an illness like this that drags on, like mine was like 18 months, and most cancer treatment is around that time until you stop your active treatment. Family members are also, they caregiving, they trying to maintain their own sanity around, they have their own families, like my daughter and daughter-in-law, son and son-in-law had their own little kids, and so there's a lot for them, so it's a help to not just the patient, it's a help to everybody.
It's about establishing the balance between being there but respecting the space and the boundary. And that's a tricky one, and I think it's important then to maybe ask the person or just to say, I'm here, let me know, or I want to do this for you, is that okay?
That's another thing, to ask the patient, because somewhere along the line you lose an identity. You know, you even get to a point where people have come to visit you and they're talking amongst themselves because people don't want to make eye contact because of their own insecurities around death and dying and cancer and things like that. So you almost feel left out of the conversation, you know. So making a person feel that, you know what, we can ask you what you need.
Okay, I would imagine also your interaction with people were very, very awkward, but unfortunately, because we've reached the end of our program, we've already established that this is an extremely personal journey that you travel, and I know that there's lots and lots of insight that you can share with us, and a lot also has to do with who you are as a person because of the introspection that you are forced to do at a time of this journey. So what I'm going to ask the viewers to do is to get a copy of, and I'm going to grab this one, of the journal that Suraya compiled during the time of her illness. It's a small, it looks like it's a small book, but it has a lot of valuable information in here about Suraya's experience. And more than anything, the proceeds go to the Islamic Care Line. And I really, really hope that viewers out there will support not only the Care Line, but also to support all the people out there who are going through a terminal illness by possibly reading it yourself and assisting, or buying a copy for them. But I think it's a good read, and I think that you will all find lots of value in it. So before we end the program, any last words or final message to our viewers?
I think the most important thing is to trust in Allah. No matter what you're going through, whatever your circumstances, whether it's a terminal illness, whether it's marital breakdown, whether it's, I mean, people go through lots of different challenges in their lives, but trust in the hope and mercy of Allah is the one thing that will carry you through whatever you go through.
So there you go, viewers. We are very blessed to be Muslim, and we have Allah's mercy and His blessings with us. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah to all of you for joining us on this program, Get Real with Islamic Care Line. I'm Anisa Musa from the Islamic Care Line. Assalamu alaikum.